All right, so now I'm excited about bringing on my colleague, Will Nelson. He's a principal planner for our Contra Costa County Department of Conservation Development. And then we just recently got our, well, I'll let him tell you what's going on so I don't steal any thunder here. But I want to invite my colleague, Will Nelson, to come on up and share information on our general plan update.
All right. Hello?
Oh, there we go.
All right, thanks, George. Thank you all. Happy to be here to talk about the county general plan. Let's see, let's just jump into it here. So back in December of 2017, the Board of Supervisors instructed our department to update the county general plan, the climate action plan, and the zoning code. So this slide right here shows three gentlemen that we're familiar with. The general plan that we had in effect was adopted while George Bush, the first, George Bush, was president back in 1991. The second one, or the Climate Action Plan, which is now the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, was adopted while Barack Obama was president. But then we get to the third one over here. That's Harry Truman, president at the end of World War II, and that is when our zoning code was adopted, 1947. And just a little bit of info for the city people here. If you were city incorporated after 1947, then you inherited the county's zoning code, and I know for a fact that some of you have remnants of that old zoning in your zoning today. So these are three pretty old documents. Maybe not the one in the middle, but definitely the two on the end. So it was definitely time to update these. And so, as you can see here, get the pointer, yep. November 5th, 2024, we did in fact adopt the new county general plan just 2 weeks ago, along with the climate action and adaptation plan. Wow, thank you so much. And we are working on the zoning code as we speak. So I'll leave it at that. So 2045 general plan, and in all fairness to Lindy, she did say 2040 earlier, and I corrected her. Well, when our 3-year project turned into a 6-year project, we added a few more years because we wanted to get 2 decades out of this general plan. So it was envisioned 2040, it ended up being the 2045 Contra Costa County general plan. So just in case, I'm not going to put anyone on the spot with a show of hands, like asking who knows what a general plan is, but a general plan, Stephen apparently does know. But the general plan, everyone's heard of zoning. A lot of people have never heard of the general plan. In fact, the general plan is highest in the hierarchy of land use planning documents. It is often referred to as the constitution or sometimes the blueprint for land use planning in a jurisdiction. All of your land use planning decisions have to be consistent with your adopted general plan. Your zoning has to be consistent. If you have design guidelines or standards, they have to be consistent. Specific plans have to be consistent. It all flows from the general plan. So every city and county is required to have one. And well, I kind of already went over the second point, but it also, it establishes a vision. So it's a technical planning document, and it's a policy document, and it's also a vision document, right? It looks a couple decades into the future. So it addresses not only what is your community, but what does your community want to be down the road. So again, ours was from 1991. So what people, I'll go back for a second. It was adopted in January of 91. So it really reflected 1980s thinking, and we've definitely changed a bit in our mindset since the 1980s. So it was very important that we have a new general plan in this county. And I should mention, well, I'll get to this in a second. When the board directed us to update the general plan, they directed that we incorporate these 4 themes throughout. So community health, economic development, and sustainability are fairly straightforward. We can all kind of understand what those mean. I mean, as far as the community health goes, we have a much better understanding today of how the built environment affects our health. And so that was a very important thing for the board that they wanted us to. And what I mean by that is, if you have all of your land uses spread out all over the place and the only way to get to each one is by driving, what does that mean? You're not walking or you're not bicycling, things like that. How land uses interact with each other. What is next to what? We have, it was alluded to our history of zoning and planning in this country. We kind of got away from building cities in a logical fashion, like they do in pretty much every other country in the world. Here we decided that, oh no, it's best to get in a car and drive 10 minutes to something that I could just as easily have walked to. And so reconnecting our communities, reintegrating the land uses, making sure there are parks and recreational facilities and all the basic stuff that people need to live their daily lives within proximity to each other. That's kind of the community health part. Economic development, we'll get more into. Sustainability, of course, that's a huge topic. More sustainable economy, a more sustainable society, using our resources in a more efficient way. But environmental justice is a requirement of Senate Bill 1000, which was passed a few years ago. And there's a lot to this, but really what it boils down to is that planning does not have a very good history in this country. And for about 100 years plus, it has been used as a tool to segregate society, to create haves and have-nots. And the California legislature said, no more of that. You're addressing this. And so environmental justice is about creating equity in our communities, making sure that all of the communities in our jurisdiction have the same basic level of resources, and there is a huge disparity in the unincorporated county from one community to another, what people have over here and what they don't have over there. It's making sure that, the infrastructure, public works projects, our programs are equitably provided across communities. There's more to it than that, but that's the idea of environmental justice, is really starting to undo some of these things. And just, to give a little more context to it, we live right here in Pleasant Hill. Our house is 3 minutes away from here. There's a deed restriction. Our house, it's in the deed. It says it can only be sold to white people. And that's from 1950. We're not talking about, the South in the in the 1880s. That is right here in the center of Contra Costa County within the last century. So these kinds of things were happening right here, and so it's a big job, a big task to start undoing this. So, okay. So here are the general plan elements. State law requires your general plan to have various chapters called elements. Land use, transportation, housing, conservation, open space, and safety are all required elements. You're also able to add whatever else you want that pertains to planning in your jurisdiction. Growth management at the bottom there. So going back to CCTA and our Measure J, our half-cent sales tax, one of the requirements for all jurisdictions in the county is that you have a growth management element consistent with Contra Costa Transportation Authority's growth management element. That's how you get, it's called return to source funds, some of that money back to take care of your local roads and infrastructure. The stronger communities element, so the reason the graphic looks like this is that the four themes, while the board said integrate them throughout, which we did, we ultimately found out that they still kind of needed a home base. There were topics related to these themes that didn't really fit cleanly in the other elements. So the stronger communities element is really where you'd go to read about these four themes, get background information on them, etc. So, whoops, there we go. So the land use map. So I should mention that the county's land use jurisdiction is only in the unincorporated area. So everything shown in gray here, that's all the incorporated cities. Each of them has their own general plan. They're required to have their own general plan. They all have their own land use map. But this map is extremely important to everyone who is involved in economic development because it says what can happen on any piece of land in your jurisdiction. it's hard to see at this scale, but you can certainly see that most of the county's jurisdiction, which is nearly 500 square miles, so it's quite a large area that we plan for, it's these various colors, various shades of green and earth tones. Those are all things like agriculture, state parks, East Bay Regional Park District parks, basically rural areas. Most of it is undeveloped. Most of our jurisdiction is undeveloped. The dark green is those parks, the watershed areas around the large reservoirs. This here, the agricultural core, that's the best soil in Contra Costa County. That's where our agricultural economy is sort of grounded. And then all these colors here are the various land uses. So one of the things we wanted to do with this general plan in terms of economic development was simplify things, cut the red tape. So these land use designations, there were 32 of them in the existing general plan. We cut it down to about 21. And what does that mean? Well, for example, these several that are for residential development, and residential development is economic development. People are called customers, right? Not to mention there's all the building of the homes and all that contributes to economic development. But there were 12 of those before. Well, so if you had a project and it didn't fit, into that one of those 12 little buckets, right? On this property, it's designated for this, but you actually want to build that. Well, you have to go through a general plan amendment that might take a year, might take 2 years, might take 10 years for some projects. Extreme costs involved, public processes and such. And so we wanted to, kind of make it easier, make these fewer of these buckets, make them wider. So on your piece of property, maybe you don't have to do a general plan amendment to build 50 units, or you can build 50 where you could maybe only build 30 before. Things like that. We added a bunch of four mixed-use designations. Again, kind of going back to planning the way it used to be before us planners messed it all up. Mixed use, go to any town that was built before World War II, and what do you see? Mixed use on their main streets, right? You see first floor retail, and you see living units above, right? You go to Virginia City, old towns, old west towns. What do you see? 4-story, 3-story, 4-story buildings with commercial uses on the bottom, residential uses above. That's how we used to build in this country. We got away from it. So those mixed use designations, we applied it on, a lot of the main thoroughfares in the county. So Willow Pass Road, Pacheco Boulevard, San Pablo Avenue, places like that. The shopping centers, Alamo Plaza, Blackhawk Plaza, opened those all up to residential development. The state also kind of did that for us through a couple laws, but we also did it in the general plan. So a lot more opportunity to build. The general plan actually plans for 23,000 new residential units in the unincorporated areas over the next 20 years, 1.2 million square feet of commercial and office space, and 5 million square feet of new industrial space. Oh, and then just to put an exclamation point on it, the one here, the red one, and these two kind of purplish colors, lavender colors, that's all of the commercial and industrial designations. And so before we had local commercial, marina commercial, office, all these different things. Again, if you didn't fall into the right one, you might need to do a general plan amendment. Now there's one. You get to do it. Then there's two for industrial development. It makes it easier for people to do things. So these are the focus areas, the economic development focus areas in the general plan. Northern Waterfront Initiative, I'm not going to read every single one, but the Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative is a big one, stretching all the way from Oakley to Richmond, revitalizing the waterfront of this county, all that old industrial land. Some of it is still operating, some of it isn't, but it's a huge resource. Priority production areas, we're working through MTC and ABAG with Oakley, Antioch, and Concord, right, on a PPA program and our consultant PlaceWorks. The Green Empowerment Zone, that's an area where we are hoping to get more of these green businesses, over the next couple decades. And again, workforce development, permit streamlining, all these are all addressed in the new county general plan. And by the way, those four themes were not really in the old general plan. pretty much not at all. Economic development, probably a little tiny bit, but other than that, nothing was really in there. This is just a screenshot. So the section of the general plan is called Economic Vitality and Empowerment. That goes back to that environmental justice theme as well, that a lot of people, they're not empowered in this county. And so it's about having a strong economy, but also an economy that is accessible to everyone, that people can participate in, right? Again, just a screenshot from the plan, the way it is organized. We have our goals, our visions, these things we really want to achieve, supported by policies, and then action items. The actions are kind of the to-do list. And those could be things like adopting an economic development strategy. It could be making specific changes to our zoning code to improve, to streamline permitting, or have whatever outcome it is that we're looking for. And then, as you see, the icons associated with those 4 themes are all there. Each of the policies and actions is tagged with them too. So you can look at, say, policy 8.5 here in the stronger communities element and see, oh, so it supports community health, environmental justice, and economic development. And then we have all those in appendices at the end too. So if you say, I want to see all the policies and actions about economic development, bam, there they are, organized by element of the general plan. So the mapping, lots of maps in this general plan. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? So I just wanted to show you some of them. Goods movement, here we have this map. It was mentioned earlier, of course, the county has 2 airports. We have a deep water shipping channel. And, the airports, everyone knows about Buchanan. I just want to say Byron Airport is an incredible resource that we have. There's a lot of drone testing that goes on out there. All kinds of things are happening at Byron Airport, and the county, going back to that land use map, something you'll see is that we have, I don't have to tell you all this, a huge traffic problem here, but it's all going one way. People going out of the county, right? Because we don't have enough jobs in this county. We have enough people, we don't have enough jobs. Now, they also, we got our regional housing needs allocation, and they want us to build 49,000 new units in this county over the next 8 years. That doesn't really exactly help with the jobs housing balance or imbalance. But places like Byron Airport, that can support jobs. East County can support jobs. It's the biggest problem is East County, right? That horrific traffic on Highway 4. And if you look, we all know this as well. BART trains that are going east in the morning are empty, and the roads going east in the morning are fairly empty. If we can start evening that out, right, getting more people going in the other direction, we can also take advantage of some of this infrastructure that we spent all these billions of dollars on over the decades that actually isn't being used during the commute hour. So again, goods movement facilities. I talked about the ports, the shipping channel, the airport. We have rail lines in this county. Transcontinental rail lines. We have all the bones here for economic development. The green empowerment zone and the priority production areas, I mentioned that. Our priority production areas in the county are in blue here. There's a general plan action to establish another one in Rodeo around the refinery and industrial facilities there the next time that opportunity comes. And then the green empowerment zone is here, as I mentioned, kind of, except for Byron Airport, it is sort of, I don't want to say coterminous, but I guess, layered with the Northern Waterfront Initiative. I talked about environmental justice. So the state provided us a tool to identify the communities that they call disadvantaged. We don't really like that name, so we call them impacted communities in the general plan. These are the impacted communities in unincorporated Contra Costa County. And if you look at this map, and then you look at a map of, say, general plan land use designations for heavy industry, you will find that they are the same map or very close to it. And so this map, asthma rankings, kind of the same map in that area. Cardiovascular disease, same map. Now we get out here, this is also, some of it's the air quality in the Central Valley that affects these things. There are other issues in other parts of the county. Low birth weight, kind of the same map again. And so you see this theme here. So, this issue of environmental justice is very closely linked to economic development, because it's what's the industry going to be going forward in this county. And, you know, when we talk about green industry, people sometimes ask what that means. I mean, as far as we're concerned, that can be assembling light rail vehicles, you know? I mean, it can be, I mean, those support public transit, right? I mean, that's green. It can be assembling batteries. It can be manufacturing wind turbines, who knows? And other things that we don't even know of yet. Other things are on the horizon, right? I saw an article in Forbes about a year ago where they talked about the Navy kind of having seller's remorse over Mare Island, and it talked about maybe having a nuclear sub base here in Contra Costa County. So who knows? Maybe that'll happen someday. 10,000 jobs, it said. So we don't know what it's all going to look like, but we do know that it's going to change. And so, you know, just kind of the takeaways from today. Supervisor Carlson mentioned this in his opening. We're a very diverse county in terms of our economy. We go from agriculture to the heaviest of heavy industries. The county supports economic development through numerous programs and initiatives, as I showed on that slide. This new general plan, 23,000 new residential units, several million square feet of non-residential uses. And what I mean by that, the EIR, the Environmental Impact Report, covers all that. So once we exceed that, then we're not really covered. It's not that more can't happen, but it's easier from an environmental review standpoint right now to do that amount of development. Trying to streamline approvals for residential development. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer at this point. But also, if you were to search the document for the number of times it says small business or locally serving business, it comes up over and over and over. We're trying to make it easier for people to open businesses, to fill empty storefronts, that sort of thing. You go to a place like Crockett, old community, tons of empty storefronts, right? It's a cute little community. Wouldn't it be great to have more businesses there, or Rodeo, or North Richmond? And I could go on and on with the list of communities in the unincorporated county. It's also significantly harder to pollute a community with this new general plan. And I mean significantly harder. And you have to do a lot for that community if you're going to come in and open a business or do a project that is going to pollute. I will say Supervisor Joya has been very instrumental in requiring warehouses and distribution centers to achieve a very high level of, I'll say, cleanliness when it comes to diesel emissions and such. And FedEx has a facility in North Richmond. We put a lot of conditions of approval on them to have it be a clean business. Those conditions have now become policy in the general plan, and FedEx is now holding that up as kind of a model facility for the future. And then I mentioned the anticipated transition to more sustainable industries in this county. So, you know, people see kind of the writing on the wall, you know, internal combustion engines. You won't be able to buy one in this state in a few years. And so, you know, things are changing, and this general plan it supports or anticipates that change. And so there's my contact info. I know they'll be sending out the PowerPoint. And that is all. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. That was an awesome presentation, by the way. You know, all this information is great, and all this thought and all these things. I just don't know. Is there someone going out to businesses and letting them know that, hey, we've streamlined things since November 5th. We've got this new plan. You know, we have this section where you can come and move. Is there an organization, or do we rely on businesses coming to look at Contra Costa to move here, or do we actively go out and look for possible businesses?
So I'm the planning guy. So I'm looking at George and Allison and Sal, because they are our economic development staff. So I'm actually going to punt that one to anyone who wants to answer that question.
Yeah, Allison Greenlee with Economic Development. I think that's a fabulous idea. I think that now that the general plan is adopted, I think that it's something that our team should be going out and promoting, because we have these 4 principles that are underneath the general plan and the climate action plan as well, which I know Will didn't present on. But we have an expanded team, and I want to mention my colleague Salvador Morales as well, who's in the back, who's supporting us. We have the capacity to be going out and doing some of this outreach, and I think we absolutely should be. So thank you for that input.
And I just want to add that the document itself too, we even chose, it took 6 years to do this. We chose the pictures, very carefully, because we want it too to be sort of an advertisement for the county, and even if you don't even read the thing, you go through and you look at the photos and you say, wow, this looks like a pretty nice place with all kinds of good stuff going on.
Yes. And also, thanks for that question. Part of it is even like today, having Will share this information is going out to, is broadcast live on Contra Costa television. So many of our constituents will now become aware of that, weren't aware before. But great question.
Yeah, and again, not a question, but kind of just to piggyback on that and to give Will some public praise here. Him and his team were out, specifically in District 3, but I know across the county, in all of the unincorporated communities, several times in the same communities, sometimes over and over again, late nights, weekdays, we're there till 8, 9 p.m., getting input from the residents in the communities, but also highlighting what this means for those unincorporated communities. So I'm glad you brought that up, but I wanted to just give you and your team some praise on that, because again, in our D3 communities, you were out there a ton sharing this news with them and getting their feedback. So just great job on that.
Thanks, Stephen. And one thing I did not mention is that there were over 170 meetings, and yeah, over the 6 years, and we met, and that includes the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, all, the list of commissions and committees that are part of the county government is long. But then we met with everyone from the Crockett Lions Club to the Western States Petroleum Association, and everyone in between, East Bay EDA, East Bay Leadership Council, community groups. We talked to anyone who wanted to talk to us. We got all kinds of community input. So this is really a plan that reflects the community voices.
Hi, Gabby with the City of Antioch. I am new to the field and don't have a background in planning, so I'm wondering, what does this mean for the incorporated communities of Contra Costa?
For the incorporated communities? Well, I think the incorporated communities, cities, often pride themselves on not being under the county's jurisdiction. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, issues don't stop at jurisdictional borders, right? So we've reached out to the cities during the development of the plan, and I will say, as a planner, we kind of joke like we're not the department of other people's business. Jurisdictions kind of, we want to work together, but also not, also have our little things that we do, our little kingdoms, so to speak. And so, there's no direct effect. We don't have jurisdiction in the cities, but I think that the county prides itself on taking a leadership role. And so, this general plan, the things I mentioned earlier, for example, about environmental justice, in Chapter 2, it pretty much pulls off the Band-Aid. And I've had some people tell me, I've never read anything like this in a planning document, not an adopted one at least, where we just say, look, here's what happened. Here's how we're going to fix it, or hopefully we'll fix it. I think without sounding, kind of too much like the county, that, hopefully as other jurisdictions, as other jurisdictions are doing their general plans, planners love to plagiarize. We look at what our colleagues do in other jurisdictions and say, oh, that looks good. That looks good. Maybe we should think of emulating that. So, maybe as other jurisdictions are doing their general plan updates, or maybe their zoning code updates, then maybe just looking to some of the stuff that the county has done, contemporary things the county has done, that would be helpful. And then I think another word that if you search it throughout this document is partner or collaborate. You will find it over and over and over again, whether it be with cities, special districts, CCTA, for example, the East Bay Regional Park District. I think that the county really put it out there in the policy document. We're here to work with you all to achieve these goals. So I think perhaps those are a couple ways that maybe it can affect the cities indirectly.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I know on behalf of our economic development team, we definitely want to recognize Will also for the hard work he's done to create the develop the general plan. At the same time, it is going to help us with our efforts to try to increase economic opportunities in the county. So if you don't mind, just join me and give him warm applause to Will.